So this is Itay Keren, Columbia ID IK2338, demoing our RMA database that I built with PHP and MySQL. As you see here, we have the main page. I have localhost Toshiba RMA. This is a fake Toshiba RMA system, but it works pretty nicely to view all the RMAs that are currently in the database. This is the main page, so this button up top will bring you back here. Then below, it queries the database to see who the supervisors are and who the technicians are, creating a different URL and a link to each one of those entries. As you see in the bottom, it passes that through to the URL. So as a supervisor, let's say I go, I'm Andrea Jacob, I log in, and it pulls down the information, the ID of the supervisor name, and then it views all of my department's overdue RMAs. So it checks which RMAs belong to this supervisor and shows them up here if their due date is before today's date. So it checks versus current date. Here, below that, you'll see all of my department's open RMAs, which is slightly different than the above one, since it doesn't compare the dates. It just tells you based on status which one is open. Then there's another query here for all my department's closed RMAs. So any status that indicates that it's closed will show up here, and then a little bit of a summary. So you'll get the price, how many days left, which is a calculated field of the date completed minus the due date, or due date minus date completed. So if it's a positive number, that's a good thing. That means they were within their time limit. And then we have here another query with a group by that shows you the total revenue, which adds up the price of all the closed RMAs. So now if I was interested to see a particular RMA, let's say this one from Jerry Gingrich, and I click it. Now this is the RMA view, which is fed through with the RMA ID, and it gives you all the particular information on that RMA and pulling it from all the different tables, giving you the ID, category, who's responsible for it, the current status, and what products it is, etc. I have a little bit of logic here to tell you if it's approved and paid. If it's not, it would say not approved, not paid. Priority, obviously, and it'll give you the dates. If this is blank, it'll make it blank. Otherwise, it'll format it nicely. And then I have the customer information below that's associated with this RMA. So, and the address. So that's that. And you can go back and forth and seeing all the different RMAs in here. You see this RMA belongs to Prince in Pennsylvania, apparently, and it's closed. So it's not approved, not paid. It was a refund. So that's the basic usage as a supervisor. So this way I get an overall idea of how my department's doing. I can try another one. Lucy Johnson, again, supervisor 002, so that's hers. If I go back, Franz Ferdinand. So if this overdue RMAs query comes out blank, then it'll tell you no overdue RMAs, good for your department. If there's no open RMAs, it'll tell you also no open RMAs, your technicians should go home. And you see here 0. This is quite an inactive department. And then Tiny Rick, he's doing all right. So, okay, that's the supervisor view in essence. And now, if I go to the technician view, it's slightly different. You don't get the calculation in the end. You only get the overdue RMAs and open RMAs of this particular technician. So you won't see other people's RMAs. So with clicking around, nothing's hidden from anybody else. But this is just an easy way for you to not get cluttered by other people's stuff. So everybody knows what belongs to everybody else. So there's no point in locking anything up from each other, but this still gives you that separation, so you can focus on your work basically. So again, the same idea. So you can see Nora Jones is doing okay. She doesn't have overdue RMA. She has one active. And it's a small lawnmower. So for Prince again. So that's the basic usage of the website. I see Jennifer Lopez has nothing to do. She should go home. So to show behind the scenes, this is the code. So this is the main.php page. You see I separated the header and the DB connection PHP, which kind of looks like this. It's quick, easy. Header contains just the most basic things. Style.php, which makes the table look a little nicer. And some of the fonts are set here. Then we check if there was a problem connecting to the database. We fail it and it's over. Otherwise, now we get to actually lay out the page, set the title, and actually query the database for the supervisor names, and actually creating links to each one. So it'll be as big as the list of supervisors in the database. So if you add a person, you don't need to write it in here again. It just queries it and automatically it updates everything. And same thing with technicians. That list of technicians pulled right from the database. And if you add any, they'll show up here immediately. And we got our footer. Very basic, copyright, and closes the database once it's done. And that's the main page. So now let's say we click on one of the supervisor pages, then this view pops up. Again, header, have to connect to the database, and if there's no error, then we get the supervisor ID that was passed through the URL, and then query that against the supervisor list, and that actually gives us the name of the supervisor, not just with ID, because I wanted to get the actual name in the title and in the heading, because an ID is okay, as you see here, but probably would be easier to see the name as well as the ID. And here you see the overdue RMA. So here's my query. It's kind of long. I learned to concatenate the strings later. But yeah, basically it just checks that the table doesn't contain any of these three statuses, which indicate to it that it's completed or closed. And you see here that's due date is below current date, so that tells you that it's overdue. So yeah, you grab that out of the database, fetch array, and then if this is empty, then it gives you that no overdue RMAs. Otherwise, it will actually throw it to an array and then build a little table. And I wanted all the headings to be together, and then below that all the entries. So you see here I created, so the RMA ID is actually a link. I don't need the rest of it to be a link as well, just that one. So it's a dynamic link that as you saw passes that ID in. So RMA view.php, and then the RID is grabbed from the database. And then basically the same thing with the open RMAs. And yeah, it lists it all there. So then the department's closed RMAs is built here. It's actually a union of the three tables that each are the three different status IDs that indicate that it's completed, that it's closed. Very simple. The last query here was a little bit more complex because I had it grouped by the supervisor ID and then get the sum of the price just to get that total revenue to date number. And that's that. Technician view is very, very similar. You see you get your overdue RMA query, but I'm just comparing the technician ID here to current tech. So that's a variable set from the URL. So it's actually querying the database depending on that URL, and it's getting that from that dynamic link. And you see here, again, if it's empty, no overdue RMA is good for you. Go home. And same thing here. I'm basically doing the same thing as the supervisor, a little simpler, and comparing the current technician against the technician ID. Yeah, basically RMA view here, once we drill down to each one, is pretty fun. I get the RID from the URL, and then I get my RMA query to just grab everything that I want about that RMA from all the different tables, and then I build a little table here, and for each there's a bunch of rows and 2 columns that just iterate through and give you the ID category, technician responsible, status, and then a little bit of logic here. And the last thing here is the customer information that I put in. So that's basically the same thing, where I select all the stuff for the customer, fetch it, and then build the same type of table, close it, and kill the result. And that's it. That's how it works.